Good morning and welcome to week 4 already of Environmental Science Online here at NICC, spring 2018. It is Monday, the 29th of January, and just want to welcome you all to the start of the week. Looks like a lot of us are starting to get into the swing of this, and I would say that the majority of us have kind of found your groove and are figuring out ways to keep up with the due dates and keep up with the assignments and keep up with the work. And so I just want to kind of extend a thank you to those of you that have been able to find your rhythm and to continue to perform at a high level. I think a few of us are still kind of figuring out our way around the system, which is natural for an online course. But hopefully by now that we're into the 4th week of the semester, just a little under 25% of the way done. If you haven't figured out the system yet, you need to reach out to me and figure out what we need to get you turned into the right direction. Couple of comments I'll make with respect to things that happened last week. I did at the beginning, or maybe towards the middle of last week, add a couple of things to the gradebook, one being a place for profile photo updates. And so if you've updated your profile photo, so when I say profile photo, gang, what I mean is the little thing that shows up next to your head when you post in the message board. So like, for example, Matt, when he posted in the Learning and Teaching thread back on January 24th, I can tell that he's updated his photo because it's got a picture of him next to that. That's not the default thing. Christina Bodensteiner, she's got her picture updated. I think if I come down to some of these other ones, though, let's see here. I'm going to stop viewing as a student for a second. So if I come back, let's look at the Learning and Teaching thing again. Let's just see here. Macaulay. Oh, Macaulay's got hers changed now too. It looks like maybe a lot of you caught the fact that I had made that change and have gone in and updated your profile photo. So I'm seeing a lot of updated pictures, and so that's good. If you haven't changed it yet, so Tony, I'm not picking on you, Tony, personally, but Tony, this would be an example of somebody that hasn't updated their profile photo yet. So I'd like you to go in and do that. I think I included a note about how to make that change in one of the earlier videos. Maybe go back to week 1 or week 2 updates and see what I said about getting profile pictures updated. It's worth 2 points, so if you don't do it, it's probably not going to kill your grade, but I'd love to at least be able to put a face to a name with everybody, particularly in a class that's this big, and particularly in an online environment. If you're uncomfortable, adding a photo of yourself for one reason or another, which I understand, that's fine. Put a picture of your dog there, or put a picture of something that you think represents you, a tree or whatever. But I would prefer to not have a whole class full of these kind of images here because it's just hard for me to kind of differentiate between who's who. So please get that done if you haven't already. And again, that's something that if you've got a 0 in the gradebook now, don't panic. I can always go back and add those points once I see that you've got your picture changed. So that was one thing that I added to the gradebook maybe kind of after the fact, and so I apologize if I startled any of you, but I know I made a comment about that in an earlier post. Another thing that I included last week that I'd like you to do if you haven't already done so, actually it's this topic that I'm looking at right now in the discussion board. So learning and teaching, that was something that I'd asked you to participate in going back in the first week. Just want to kind of get your thoughts about what you think about what it means to learn and what it means to teach. And so most of you have done that. It looked like it might have been 2 or 3 of you that still haven't gotten around to that yet. And so if you haven't done the learning and teaching discussion, please go ahead and do that. I think that one I made worth 5 points. And then the introductions, I think I also made those worth 5 points. And so if you haven't introduced yourself yet, please do that. It's not too late. These 2 discussion boards, the general learning and teaching and the welcome and introductions, those are open all the time. The other discussion boards are not open all the time, and so I'm going to log back in as a student really quick just to kind of reiterate one thing. So if we click on the content for this week now, again, we're in week 4. It's chapter 4 of your textbook that looks at concepts of biodiversity and evolution. I've got some PowerPoint slides here that go along with the textbook. It's a little bit older version of the textbook, but there are some PowerPoint slides here that you could either download or look at in the little viewer window here. But it's content that parallels the text. In addition to that content, I have included a couple of movies in here that you could take a look at. They're short, kind of fun take on evidence for evolution. So maybe you hear people talking about the fact that they don't think evolution is a real thing, or evolution is just a theory. Take a look at this movie and see what people are saying about the evidence behind evolution. It's done by the Hank Green. That's a crash course video. I think I posted one of his earlier this semester. And so take a look at that. It's pretty quick. If I go this way, then the other bit of content that I posted is another movie by a professor named E.O. Wilson. If you look in your textbook, he's somebody that your textbook talks about in that Individuals Matter section. I think it's on page 65. And he talks a little bit about efforts to document or classify or identify every living species on the planet. And so there's a lot that we don't know out there about living species, kind of the biotic or the biosphere, if you will, biotic aspects of ecosystems. And so his idea is, if what value would there be in kind of creating an encyclopedia of all living things on Earth? And so I would encourage you to watch this. E.O. Wilson's a really interesting figure in the scientific community. Okay, the other content then for the week are the assignments. And so the critical thinking assignment for this week asks you to kind of ponder this idea of whether or not humans are keystone species. And so if you're not sure what keystone species are, I invite you to open up the textbook and take a look at what the book says about keystone species, and then go ahead and comment on whether or not you think humans are or are not. Back up your claim with some evidence, right? Don't just say, yes, I think it is, or no, I think they're not, but tell us why you think that is. Critical thinking assignments kind of have the following due date scheme. Your original post should be turned in on Thursday by 11:30 p.m., and then you should respond to at least one of your classmates' posts by 11:30 p.m. on Sunday. This coming Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday, so keep that in mind as you budget your time for the week. The other bit of content for the week, I've got an environmental news assignment in here that I'd like you to participate in. As usual, go look for news or YouTube videos or documentary or some form of online material that we can get access to with a click of a mouse that deals with these topics of biodiversity or evolution. Tell us who wrote the article, tell you where you got the article from, give us a brief summary. Be sure to include questions that you have after reading the article. This is the one place, I think, where I continue to kind of ding people, keep you from getting a full score on these environmental news, as well as on your critical thinking assignments. And so I'm really looking for questions. Are you coming up with questions? Are you being curious? Are you probing your classmates' thinking and what they're writing to kind of maybe push the conversation forward? So that's one thing that I'd like you to keep in mind. I'm trying to see if I can find the rubric for this. If we click on the discussion. Right, so if you click on the rubric here, this kind of shows you again how I'm scoring these. So there's a point for each one of these criteria. So is it relevant to the discussion? That's a point. Is your summary concise? There's a point. Did you include a hot link? Did you raise questions? Did you provide original insights? And did you proofread? So there's 6 points for the original post, and then for your response to a classmate, again, I'm looking for questions there as well. So a lot of you, if you're not getting full scores on these environmental news, it's probably because you're not raising questions. And so please ask questions. The I'll go back here really quick too. There's also, a rubric for the critical thinking. That's actually a little better rubric, I would say, for those of you that are into rubrics. The the rubric for critical thinking. Oh, you know what? That didn't get updated, but there are, 5 criteria for the critical thinking for a total of 5 points. One of which is, did you raise questions? And so I have another critical thinking rubric out there that I can update that with. Anyway, you can kind of see again how am I assessing you on these assignments every week. For the most part, you're all doing really well. But if you're wondering why am I not getting a full score, it's probably because you didn't ask a question. And I think I'm giving feedback too on each one of you, so you should be able to click in and see my comments. All right, and then so the last thing that you need to do this week, gang, is if you go back out to the content, you need to take a quiz this week. Just like you took a quiz last week, you need to take a quiz this week. And that quiz, though, is over the material from last week. And so last week you were talking about Chapter 3. Last week was Week 3. And so if you come back to Week 3, the quiz now, I need to fix this. The quiz, it says it's overdue, and I'm not quite sure why that is, but it started today about 20 minutes ago, or about 40 minutes ago, and it's going to be due on Sunday at 11:30 p.m. It's over the material from Chapter 3, 5 questions, multiple choice. You have 30 minutes to take the quiz from the time that you start. And so I had a few people reaching out to me going, hey, I ran out of time. You need to take the quiz at a time when you have time to take the quiz. And so don't take the quiz, 5 minutes before you're running out the door, or 10 minutes before you're about to fall asleep, because you may run out of time. And so budget your time wisely. If you need more time to take the quizzes, that's fine, but you just need to reach out to me so that we can get accommodations made. But anyway, that's the gist of the quizzes. Again, it's 5 questions, multiple choice. If you've read the chapter or skimmed the chapter, you shouldn't have too much trouble doing well on these quizzes. Okay. I think that's all I've got for this week's updates. Again, you're in week 4 this week. Biodiversity and evolution. There's the content. Also, don't forget to take the quiz, which is available in the week 3 material. You can also access quizzes, I think, gang, by clicking on quizzes up here. So, current quiz, you've got quiz 3. Don't worry about this karst aquifer worksheet. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, that's all I've got for now. Again, have a great week 4 here on online. If you have questions about anything, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I know I'm a little behind on grading. I think I still need to grade maybe critical thinking 1. So I haven't forgotten about you. I'm still getting a little caught up. So anyway, great talking to you, and I look forward to reading what you've got to say this week. And if you've got questions, go ahead and contact me. All right, thanks, gang. Have a great week.